It's to become aware of awareness.
Yes, to become aware that you are awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And you're witnessing constantly. So from here, you can start to tune into or sense a background stillness. It's kind of like a field of presence underlying any experience. Now, the practice is to hold your attention there and to keep bringing your attention back to that. That's all it comes down to, really. It's a subtle shift in the focus of our attention. Now, most people have their attention focused on the constant stream of thought. And it's so focused there that there's complete identification with it and the belief that I am these thoughts. Through this practice and inquiring into what is aware of the thoughts, we discover this deeper dimension where there's pure consciousness here and no thought, just awareness aware.
It's beautiful. Wow. Voice is so calming. Yeah. It's always there. It's always peace. It's always here.
Yes. And it is beautiful. So once it's been glimpsed or tasted, then there's a knowing that it's real, it exists. And that's all it takes for most people, that taste or that glimpse.
Yeah.
And from there, usually there's no turning back. Like, it's always here, it's always accessible, it's always available. And what happens when we discover it is actually ignites a process, which can be a lifelong process that takes place on the physical level. And that's a process of deep healing and transformation, a process of integration. And even in the most challenging moments of that, maybe some deep childhood traumas come up to be healed. If I ask people, like, would you want to turn back and not know about this? So far, not one person has said, yeah, I wish I could turn back. No matter how challenging it is, because it just brings so much beauty, so much more meaning into life.
Do you think that essence is what most of these old belief systems, religions are kind of getting at? Maybe even when one utters the word God, it is that essence that we're touching upon, that sense of peace that's been inside of all of us.
Yeah, I haven't studied religions too much, but from what I've seen, I think most of the religions express this truth in one way or another. Like Jesus said, I am the Son of God. And what I think he was saying is that, like, I am an extension of this divinity. I'm an extension of this source energy.
Yep.
But I think the people misunderstood what he was saying and they thought that he's something special. What they didn't realize is we're all sons and daughters of God. We're all extensions of the divine.
Yeah.
What the religion or the religious teaching that feels really clear to me is the Dzogchen teachings in Buddhism. I've read some of those and they're incredibly profound and feel incredibly clear. Many of the Judeo-Christian religions have distortions that I think have come through mistranslations or misunderstandings of the original teachings.
Yeah, I agree. But I think if one looks with a keen eye, they'll be able to see through the distortions and through the translations of what the masters are actually really getting at. And yeah, that's just my personal experience. But I think people can know what I'm saying when I say that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So in that wavelength, in that essence, essentially, we're all the same thing, right? Like me and you, even though it appears I'm on this side of the camera, you're on that side where you are. This is just a phenomena, and the listener is where the listener is. Essentially, this is just like a movie of life. This is like God's play. But essentially, really, at a deeper aspect, we are all the same thing, right? We're all just this. We're all God, essentially, like you just said. But we're like an extension of God. Like we're not at this point in time. We're not all of God, even though we kind of are. It's like it's both. It's both at the same time. We're like we are this. We are all the one, but at the same time we're separate. It's Brahman and Atman. But it's like essentially when it comes down to it, we're all. I'm you. You're me. Right? It's just this beautiful dance, and we're acting like we're not. Like we're acting. It's almost like this game. Like we're acting like everybody, not just me and you. Like we're all acting like we're not. Like Ram Dass says, like treat everybody like God in drag. That's how I try to live.
Yeah.
I try to reside at that. I try to be at that at all times. And yeah, it's just funny to me. I don't know. It's just funny that like God's playing a trick on himself by putting himself in different costumes. But essentially, where it really comes down to it at the end of the day, I'm you, you're me, and we're just having some fun here. And I know it's not fun because there's a lot of suffering, but one can see with the right perspective that the suffering, it sounds weird, the suffering is part of the fun. I know that's not right, and I wouldn't say that to somebody who's truly suffering, but you can kind of grasp what I'm trying to say. It's all just this like, it's all a show. It's all this illusion of Maya that's happening. Just phenomena. It's just coming and going, a passing by. And ultimately, like you said, that stillness resides. It's always there. It's always here, literally. Within the vantage point of me and you, it's literally that stillness that goes beyond words. Obviously, my words aren't doing it justice right now, but I'm trying to point it. I'm trying to be the finger pointing at the moon right now. It's there. I'm pointing at the moon. It's there. It's here within all of us, always, at all times. It's just like, don't get lost. Don't get lost in the phenomena. And I think that's the path, right? Is to really decondition ourselves from the phenomena, the movie of life, and to remember this truer essence that we all are. It's like it's a next stage. I see it as like an evolution in consciousness. We came from the one, we separated into the billions of egos, and now we're returning back to this oneness, this God essence, yet still remaining separate. It's this simultaneous play. It's hard to explain. I mean, that's non-duality if you really want to put a word on it. But it's like we're all these separate nodes of God that are remembering that they're God. And thus from that, the only other thing that we can do is love, right? I mean, that's why people say, like, all you need is love, is because once I recognize that you're me and I'm you, like, what other choice do we have than to love each other? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself right here, but but where is the importance of love for you? Is love in that stillness? Is that what comes about? I guess you can say from that stillness is an essence of love for the fellow human being and yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. That ultimately that's what it comes down to, this love that loves to love itself in its multitudes of form. Mm-hmm. And it brings about such a shift in the way that reality is perceived when we relate to another being through a filter of separation and perceive them as separate from me, as opposed to recognizing the divinity in that being, the aliveness, the underlying essence that is the same essence that is here, not even in me, as me, it is me.
Yeah.
So that recognition is everything. It is not possible to harm, to hurt. There's just appreciation and love for all the different aspects of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a tree recognized that all its different branches are part of itself, it would never cut off its own branches. So, but if it saw every branch is something separate and different, then it could be afraid of them and start fighting with them. That's how most people perceive others, as an other, something separate.
Yeah.
So if it's easier actually with dogs or trees or plants to sense that essence, because most humans have a thick veil of conditioning overlying the essence. So if you look into the eyes of your dog or a baby, or sit by a flower and feel the aliveness of it, it's much clearer because there isn't that veil there.
Yeah.
And when you can start to attune to it with animals or babies or nature, then and recognize it in yourself by becoming still inside, then you can see it in every human being, no matter how thick that veil of seeming separation.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, once you see it, once you get the glimpse, you can't unsee it. You can't. There's no. You could try, but why would you? You know?